Today, I have Khalil Rafati with me. Khalil is an incredible person. This was one of my favorite podcast episodes to date. He's extremely inspiring. He's an entrepreneur, best-selling author, but his story is so impactful. He shoots it straight, he's extremely honest, and he's helping people change their lives, transform who they are now, and helps them step into the greatest version of themselves. Before this podcast, I wasn't too familiar with Khalil and his work, but now after this, I gotta say I am a huge fan. The podcast starts a little mid-conversation. Just give you guys a little bit of context. When I record the podcast, I get a little cozy with the guests before I hit record. But this one, it started out so fast-paced, so incredibly depth from the start that you'll pick up on it. So this is Khalil, and thanks so much for listening to the Life Coach Zach podcast.
Recovery center called Riviera Recovery.
Interesting.
So yeah, she was one of the clients there. But yeah, it was amazing.
So you help people get sober?
I did. I mean, that was my initial thing. I do it for fun and for free now, but initially, yeah, that was how I, because when I got sober, I was 33 years old, a high school dropout, a convicted felon. I looked like fucking death. I was a walking corpse. I was 109 pounds when I went to rehab, and the big misconception when people look at my life or my lifestyle or where I'm at is, oh, well, he got sober and his fucking parents helped him, or, he had family money, or there's always people that are broke want to make excuses for people that are successful. And there's no excuses. The reality is I had to get a fucking job. I was 33 years old and I was a fucking loser and I'd made a mess of my life. So I had to go get a job, and I couldn't get a job as a convicted felon and a high school dropout and looking like shit. But I just kept asking for work. And eventually this woman named Sherman hired me. She owned this dog grooming place and, stuck me in the back with a rubber apron on and gave me $20 a day and bought me lunch and bought me a pack of cigarettes. And that was the beginning. That was where I was at 30. I think I turned 30. I was 33, June 18th, 2003, 33. By the time I got to Sherman, I was 34. And things were not looking good for me. There was not really a bright future ahead of me. But here we are.
Wow, here we are. How did you find hope in times like that?
A lot of prayer, a lot of white knuckling prayer, just literally getting on my knees and just white knuckling prayer to God. I didn't know who God was or what religion I was supposed to be, but I just constantly asked God for help. And, my prayers are pretty fancy now. When you look down at your Rolex or you're in your fancy hotel room overlooking the river in Austin, my prayers can get pretty fancy, but in those early days, it was a whole lot of like, God, please, God, please be with me. God, please hold my hand. God, I'm scared. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I'm, please. So yeah, a lot of prayer, and 12-step groups helped a lot. Mm-hmm. But 12-step groups definitely aren't going to take you from being homeless. Just because you get sober, you're not going to snap your fingers and all of a sudden have an amazing life. There was a lot of work in between then and now. And in June, it'll be 18 years that I've been sober.
Congratulations.
Thank you, brother.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So how else do you continue to inspire people that are trying to get sober?
I think my Instagram is the main source. I have a lot of people that I've been DMing with for years on my Instagram. I obviously can't get to everybody. And the truth is I only get to a very few, but there are those people that seem to somehow DM me right at that moment where the coffee and the chaga and the lion's mane kicks in.
Yup. I feel that, man.
Yeah. Right around 5:30, 6 a.m. I'll see a request, a DM request, and I'll click on it. And it's pretty amazing. And I haven't met most of these people, but there are thousands of people all over the world. My book, my first book, I Forgot to Die, that ended up being a bestseller. And I think just because the graphic nature of the book, the cover of the book is an actual mugshot of me at 109 pounds with like open sores on my face, a little smirk because I couldn't smile because I was missing teeth. So that book did incredibly well. I Forgot to Die. It's on Audible.
I
It's on
just bought
Amazon.
it. I
Oh,
just
you
bought
did?
it. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Okay, so so yeah, the book reached. It's in Russian now. It's in Spanish. It's in Bulgarian. It's on Audible. Um, the second book, not so much. The second book, um, people want to hear a Cinderella story, and they want to believe that luck is much more prevalent and real than it actually is. They people will buy a book where a dude is on the cover looking like a fucking corpse. People don't want to buy a book where the dude actually breaks down line by line, item by item, how he made his money, how he made his fortune, and how he built a brand doing 2019 we did 15 million in sales. That's just with the one company, Sun Life Organics. And then there's my book sales, and then there's I'm the founder of Riviera Recovery as well. I'm also the founder of Malibu Beach Yoga. But people don't want to hear how all of that happened or how much hard work went into it. People want to hear about, man, the dude was living under a fucking bridge and now he's a millionaire and he's flying around the world on private jets. Well,
Right.
read the captions. Those ain't my jets. I got some rich, fancy friends, and yeah, I have lived the life of Riley on someone else's dime. I mean, and don't get me wrong, man. I can go wherever I want. I have enough American Express points, and I have enough money saved up, and enough crypto, and I'm doing good. And yeah, technically, I'm a millionaire. But the type of trips that you see on my Instagram, if you scroll back, 20 posts pre COVID, those trips, I mean, those would literally cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Just the jet ride would be, $150,000. Those weren't my trips, and I was very vocal about that. I said in each post, like, by the way, this is not real. This is not my life. People don't care. They just want to make assumptions, and they want to go, see, man, it's all about luck. It ain't about luck. It's about hard work.
It's about hard work. So what were the action steps that you took to put in that hard work?
Oh man,
I know it's a
unfortunately,
very general question, but
no, it is, but it's not because how do you go from being a fucking loser that fucked up your whole life and you're like, I was a social pariah. I mean, I was an ex drug dealer that had just failed at life. I mean, I went from when I was in my 20s, shit was great. I was dealing ecstasy, going to raves and taking mushrooms and dating models and actresses, and it looked really good on paper. But in my 30s, I was homeless, and it wasn't. I don't mean homeless like, oh, my dad kicked me out, so I'm living at my girlfriend's condo. I mean homeless. I mean living under a fucking bridge, filthy, miserable. In and out of jail, overdosing. So how did I go from that to what actionable steps were taken?
yeah.
Fucking humility. I needed
Yes.
humility. I had to find humility. And the thing that makes me so sick is when I get DMs from people like, man, I want to live like you. I want to be rich. I'm like, richness is not defined by your dumbass fake Instagram posts, because 99% of what you see on social media is fake. And I am just as guilty as anybody else,
Right.
because I ain't doing posts about curled up in a fetal position at 3 o'clock in the morning battling my depression and my anxiety. And I go through that shit more so than most people. I'm going to post with my hot girlfriend when we're in Cabo, or I'm going to post when I'm on my friend's jet and I've got the right Horsenboost sunglasses on, or the right
Mhm.
whatever. I'm trying to stay relevant.
Or UFC with Gordon Ramsay, right?
Yes, or UFC with or Anthony Kiedis or Gerard Butler. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's the shit I'm posting. But I needed humility. I had
Right.
to find humility, and unfortunately for me, the humility came because I ran so hard with the drugs and the drinking, more drugs than drinking, but I ran so hard that the fucking wheels came off. And all of a sudden I had scabies and ringworm and I was filthy. And the humility that I so desperately needed came crashing down upon my fucking head. So while most people thought, oh God, I'm in my 30s, I need to find a career. I'm sober now. I need to find a career. For me, it was like, I need to fucking feed myself. I need to be able to buy a sandwich without
Mm-hmm.
going to a 12-step meeting and telling people I was hungry. So humility first and foremost. And then just the ability to stay sober and realize this guy named Danny Smith, and I hated him when he said it to me. I love him now. But this guy named Danny Smith said, you want the fast buck or do you want the long buck? Because the long buck is big and large and sustaining. If you're going to go for the fast buck, you're going to be in trouble. So when you're young and you want to make a bunch of money, or you're newly sober and you want to make a bunch of money, and maybe you're sort of, more middle aged like I was, all those things, like just sign up for this and then you're going to sign up your friends and then you know what I mean, like those pyramid schemes and all that
Absolutely.
shit.
Multi-level marketing company.
Yeah, like there's so many people that get sucked into that shit and they think that
Yeah.
they're going to get rich. It ain't reality. I
Mm-hmm.
fucking washed dogs and I walked cars. Walked cars. I washed dogs and I washed cars and I cleaned people's apartments
Mm-hmm.
and I saved every penny and I found a living situation where I could live at these people's place in exchange for labor. And I did that for a couple of years until I had enough money put together where I could start to invest it, which I did. I invested in gold and silver and platinum back in 2004, 2005, 2006. And just like many of the young guys like you now that are investing in crypto,
Mm-hmm.
and people are telling you that you're crazy and your grandparents are telling you it's a scam.
Yep.
Yeah. People said the same shit when I was buying gold coins at $400 a piece, $500 a piece. Everybody told me I was crazy. Everybody told me don't put all your eggs in one basket. Well, guess what? Those $400 coins 5 years later were worth almost 5 times what I bought them for. Wait,
Mm-hmm.
4 times 5? Actually, they were worth 5 times what I bought them for. And I got lucky and I sold at the height. I started my first little business in 2007. It took off. I started it on a shoestring and a prayer, and fuck, I kept going.
Dude, humility is so powerful.
Yeah,
So powerful, man. It's okay to be humble. It's shows a sign of strength, humility. I mean, you can't learn, you can't grow if you don't stay curious and understand that you don't know what you don't know, right? And taking a very low level job, exchanging labor for a place to sleep and a piece of bread, is what you got to do if you want to be successful. So go after the long buck. Don't chase the short buck,
yeah.
right? And that, I mean, humility, man, that is something that I've been really like living for the last couple years, and it's helped me out so much. So I really am gonna take what you just said to heart, and I'm gonna double down on being super humble about my mindset, about my soul set, my work set. Like, even though I really have good habits, I wake up early and I meditate and I read and I eat super healthy and I work out so much, but like I can always be better, right? I'm not shit.
Yeah. Well, here's what I would say to that, Zach. Look, you're very young, you're very good looking, and you have a great lifestyle. So being humble for you is going to be much more challenging than it was for me when I was early sober. But
Appreciate that.
here's
Thank you.
something that I would encourage everybody to do. And I know people aren't looking for unsolicited advice, but I'm just going to tell you this because I think this is the real magic. Being humble and being kind and being loving when no one's looking. How
Mm.
you treat the busboy when no one's paying attention, how you treat the guy that's parking your car. How about this? How you treat the person who's giving you a ticket because you forgot to put money in the meter or because the meter ran out. How you
Mm.
treat that person is ultimately how your life is going to evolve. That's the crazy secret that nobody ever tells anybody. If you're a fucking dick, if you're chewing out the guy or the gal that just gave you a parking ticket, or if you're snapping at the busboy who maybe doesn't speak English that well and didn't know what you were asking for, or if you're berating the waiter or the waitress because it took too long to get your meal, the fucking waiter and the waitress isn't cooking your meal. The cook is, or the chef is, right? If you can overtip, even if the service was shitty, if you can look at the person giving you a parking ticket and know that that's their fucking job, and you can look at them and go, you win some, you lose some.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if the busboy who you asked for more bread brings you more water, you can look at him and you can smile and you can say thank you. You're going to have a fucking amazing life.
Wow. Well said. Well said, man. I'm going through your Instagram right now and I'm looking at all your pictures, and I just got to say we have so much in common. You know, you live a very healthy lifestyle, you work hard, you're up early, you're passionate about self-education. Your most recent post that you just posted yesterday, you know, of the picture of, I don't even know how to explain it. It's almost like Gaia, God, like you can see like this energy from the heart center, and he's like in full lotus on a bed of flowers, and there's a lot of like chromosomes or neurons or whatever you want to call it kind of coming out from the body, and like this really encompasses what we can't put into words. But what and I noticed you post a lot about crystals and things like that, but what's something that you're really passionate about right now that you're trying to learn more about?
Something that I'm passionate about, that I'm trying to learn more about. Um, I'd say legacy. I would say I'm what I'm thinking about now is, what are people going to say about me when I'm gone, and what are those around me who I love? How am I going to leave them better off than how I found them? And my early 20s and 30s was all about like, I want to hook up with all these girls, or I want to like date the hottest girl, and then I'm going to cheat because I was secretly scared that she was going to abandon me and whatever, and like sort of living in that opposite mindset. That now I've gotten to do all these amazing things. I've traveled, take COVID out of the
Mm-hmm.
the what I'm about to say. Like, forget about the last year. So the previous 5 to 7 years before that, I traveled around the world more times than I can remember, and I went. I did all those things that everybody thought, God, if I could only do that, or if I could only get that. I was that idiot that went out and got that watch that, well, if I could just get that watch, that's going to fix me. Or if I could just get that car, if I
Yep.
could get one of those vintage Broncos, but have it like frame off restoration. Well, I
Mm-hmm.
did. Well, but I need a muscle car. If I had a convertible muscle car between 1968 and 1972, the real classic years of the American muscle car, but it would have to be beautiful and black. And I obviously where I'm going with this. I got
Right.
a fucking muscle car that was so cool that Justin Bieber actually rented it from me for his video, "If You Were My Girlfriend." I think that's the name of the song.
Wow.
And he had his crew rent out, like, must have been like 30 cars. Many of them were like, cars that cost like $1 million, and mine did not. Mine was nowhere near that. Mine was like 30 grand or something like that, because it was just an Oldsmobile 442. But it was a car that I'd fantasized about having when I was a kid, because my best friend's dad owned an Oldsmobile dealership. Anyway, long story endless, he rented my car from me. And out of all of the amazing Cobras and all the amazing cars that his crew had rented, my car was the one that he chose to drive in that video. And if you watch it, that black 68 Oldsmobile 442, that's my car. But I got bad news. It didn't make me any happier, and it
Mm-hmm.
didn't make me any more fulfilled. And the watch that I got, along with the next watch and the next watch, is
Uh-huh.
sitting in a safety deposit box somewhere. So what I'm interested in now, What is it if that shit doesn't make you feel better? And don't take my word for it, because maybe some of your listeners are going to think, oh, well, he's just a fucking weirdo spiritual guy. No, not at all. I can tell you definitively, not because I'm cool and not because of anything that about me, but I have hung out with and I am best friends with some of the most prolific, amazing, famous, richest people on the planet. And I can tell you definitively, none of their material possessions bring them any type of lasting, sustainable joy. Their fame, as big as it may be, does not bring them happiness. At the end of the day, the most famous people in the world, what makes them happy are their children. What makes them happy are their philanthropic ventures where they get to give back to the community. What makes them happy are their dogs or their cats. You can probably hear my little new kitten meowing in the background. What makes them happy is the legacy that they're going to leave behind. So for me, what I'm most curious about today, and what I'm most excited about today, is finding those things that make me truly happy and that make the lives of those around me truly happy.
Such a good answer. You're focused on legacy, leaving a mark on this planet, and not only helping your loved ones for future success and abundance, but the entire world, man. I mean, we've only been on this podcast now for 20 minutes, but you've already made such a profound impact on my life, man. And I want to ask you, how does someone like myself, who's 30 years old, I'm pretty financially comfortable for sure. I have really good habits. I love going to the beach. I don't chase watches, even though I did just buy a brand new Tesla. But besides that, I'm not really craving a lot of material things, even though I can have them. Is legacy and leaving this, impact on people, if that is something that I should be more passionate about, if that's something that I should gear my consciousness and my mental attention towards, how can I implement that and apply those principles right here, right now?
I would say, I think the simple answer is find your purpose. A lot of people, especially in the podcast world or on social media, are talking about find your passion. My passion was dating models and taking handfuls of ecstasy and being flashy and just being an idiot. That's what I was passionate about. I would discourage people from passion. I mean, passion is good. You definitely want to have passion, but have passion in your purpose. Find your purpose. Then you can be as passionate as you want. And so for me, like, I own Sun Life Organics. And I would say, out of anything I've ever done in my life, out of anything I've ever achieved in my life, Sun Life Organics is my purpose. And to go back to when I was newly sober, my friend Sean, I'll just break it down in a nutshell. My friend Sean, who I used to get high with, he got sober on his own without 12-step groups and without, religion or whatever. He just decided to stop doing drugs. And he was always into health food and superfoods and all that stuff, but he really doubled down on all that. And he was on this mad journey of fasting and cleansing and burdock root and turmeric and goji berries and greens powders. And so when I reached out to him and I was crashing at this guy's house, this biker dude that I met at an NA meeting, that was the only roof I could get over my head. This guy named Barron took pity on me and let me sleep at his house when I was newly clean and sober. I reached out to Sean. I was like, hey man, I'm fucked. I got no money. I got, I'm really struggling. Nobody will take my calls because I had burned every bridge I had ever known. And Sean came up in his Volkswagen bus and he brought me all these juices and all these superfoods and raw almonds and raw cashews and he fed me. And man, the moment I put that stuff in my body, real nutrition, the moment I put it in, I felt better. And I don't just mean like physically, I mean mentally and emotionally. Once I got the fats of the avocado and the cashew butter and the raw almonds, my brain, my depression lessened, my anxiety lessened. I started to feel better. And the more he brought me that stuff, the better I felt. And then as I started to, go do odd jobs here and there and walk the dogs and wash the cars, I would take that money because I didn't have to pay rent. And I would go buy my own Vitamineral greens or pure synergy powder or whatever greens powder I could get my hands on. And sometimes just mix that shit with water and just down it like twice a day. Shit my brains out, a lot of bile was coming out of me at that time, a lot of nasty stuff. I was detoxifying pretty heavily, but it's amazing what happens once your organs start to function properly because you're not putting all that sludge in your body.
Right.
Like all the antibiotics and all the nasty shit and the cigarettes and the drugs, but even forget about cigarettes and drugs. Regular people, just how about all the high fructose corn syrup and all of the fucking glyphosate that we're getting poisoned with because it's in wheat, or all the nasty genetically modified shit that's in corn, and we're constantly consuming corn products. Anyway, sorry, I went off on a tangent. So when I began to regain my health, my body began to function optimally, and I started to feel a surge of energy that I had never felt before. And that was all the results of these superfoods and these smoothies and these juices. So for me today, 18 years later in June, to be able to serve those at all the different Sun Life Organics and watch the magic happen, not just with the customers, but even employees. I have employees that will come in, you can tell they're not so healthy. Maybe they're sneaking off and vaping on their lunch break or whatever. Dude, 6 months later, they ain't vaping anymore. They're full of fucking energy. They got a glow to them. They're teaching their parents about health and wellness and nutrition. So for me, on a daily basis, I get to watch people get healthier, get more energy, turn their lives around, all of a sudden discover podcasts and discover Audible and reading. And I get to do that every single day, 7 days a week, 363 days a year. We take 2 days off a year. But I get to do that all over Southern California, here in Austin, Texas, soon Miami. We're opening up in South Beach.
I'll be there.
Awesome. And then next will be New York and Vegas. So I found my purpose. I found my purpose. So I'm super passionate now. And purpose and mixed with passion is sustainable.
Yeah.
But the other shit, the shit that I crave so bad, like, oh man, I would see people on white sand beaches, or I would see people on private jets, and not so much anymore, because now people are starting to realize like how fucking pathetic it is for somebody like myself to post those pics. But I will tell you something funny. My last post, that's one of the most honest, inspiring posts I have ever posted. That is the fucking truth. If you read that post, you will find the secret to life in that post. Dude, it only got 600 likes. If you look at any private jet post I ever posted, and I posted a lot of them because I'm that fucking insecure and I'm that shallow.
Yo, this one with like the gray jet, you're in like a gray jumpsuit with light blue shoes on, 2,827 likes.
Exactly. If you look at those stupid, pretentious douchebag posts of mine on a private jet, they're getting thousands of likes. But if you look at a post where I'm posting about a man pushing his son in a wheelchair and winning marathon races, that man just died, by the way, and he was a huge influence on me.
R.I.P. Dick Hoyt. I do not know anything about him, but I'm going to look him up as soon as we get off this podcast.
Amazing man, got nothing in terms of likes. When I post stuff that's real, when I post stuff that's like super heartfelt, the reality is the 40,000, in parentheses, I'm saying this, friends that I have, most of them don't hit like, and most of them don't comment. But when I did those fucking stupid, pretentious posts on my private jets that weren't even mine, by the way, I've never in my life rented a jet or bought a jet or owned a jet, nor would I. Well, I don't know if nor would I, because what's his name said the same thing. Who's the Oracle of Omaha? Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett said that. Warren Buffett said
Omaha. That's funny.
Yeah. Warren Buffett said, I would never own a private jet. That's disgusting. And then like 10 years later, they asked him what his favorite possession was. And he said, my private jet. And they said, you said 10 years ago you would never own one. And he said, well, I was wrong. So I don't know if I'll ever own one. But my point is this. People want the fast buck. People want the pretentious shit. People want to believe that they're going to find happiness once they get the girl, once they get the car, once they get the watch, once they get the certain dollar amount in their bank account. And I dude, go back 18 years ago. That dollar amount for me was $5,000, because I thought if I had $5,000, then I could get my own apartment, or I could move wherever I wanted. And that $5,000, then the goal was 20 grand. And I really believed if I had 20 grand, my life would be perfect. Then all of a sudden I had 50. And I thought, fuck, 50 grand? I could quit my job. I could do anything I want. I could go travel. I could start a business. Well, then all of a sudden it was 100, and then 200. And you know where I'm going with this.
Right.
Because eventually the goal was 1 million.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought to myself, if I had $1 million like all those other rich fuckers, then I'd be truly happy. Zach, I'm going to tell you right now the truth. And I've never talked about this on a podcast before because I don't like humble bragging. But you got me pretty fucking wound up. And I'm going to tell you, when I got my first check for $1 million, there was one person I could call. And I texted him as well. I texted him and then I called him. It's a friend of mine that has done really, really well in life. And I knew he was the one friend that wouldn't ultimately hold it against me or ask to borrow money or secretly resent me. So I called this dude up and he was like, man, I'm so proud of you. That's so great. Doesn't it feel awesome? And I said, yeah, isn't it incredible? I took a screenshot of it. I went to the bank. I deposited it. I got the receipt. I took a screenshot of that. I put them in my, you hit heart so it goes to your favorite photos or whatever. And then over the next 90 days, I experienced a depression like I hadn't experienced in 20 years. I went into the deepest depression ever. And I was in Pasadena about 2 months into that depression. I was in Pasadena. I was with a guy named Rick Rubin. And we were there to bring a guy named Wim Hof to Dave Asbury's Bulletproof Conference. And
Wow.
we had dropped Wim Hof off at the conference to get ready to do his talk. And we were going to grab a bite to eat. And we were walking across the street. And Rick doesn't really talk a lot. Rick's a music producer, but he's also a sage. And he's also, I think, one of the smartest human beings to be alive on the planet today. And I never shut the fuck up. So I'm talking. I'm like, Rick, I'm really fucking depressed. And it doesn't make any sense. And blah, blah, blah. And, I broke up with my girlfriend, but she should be depressed. I shouldn't be depressed. Like I'm single. I'm fucking rich. I'm sober. And he stops in the middle of the street. We're walking across the street. And he turns around. He looks at me. And he hadn't said anything the entire walk. And he turns around. He looks at me and he goes, well, fortunately or unfortunately, you realized that success doesn't equal happiness. Mm-hmm. And he kept walking. And dude, it hit me like a fucking bolt of lightning. And it was one of the most painful experiences for me to go through. But I realized that success or money doesn't equal happiness. Most people never get to experience that. Most people never get to realize that. Most people are going to be stuck in the someday I'm gonna, someday I'm
their
gonna.
whole life.
Their whole life.
Yeah.
Someday I'm gonna, and it's bullshit. There is a janitor in Cleveland right now. I'm making this up. Put whatever state or whatever city you want. But
happy as fuck.
Happiest guy, happier than you and I put together, right? Why? Because he's a great dad. He's a great employee. He goes to church or temple or mosque on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, whatever. Pick whatever religion you want. He's part of a community. He gives back. He's a good man. He's a good husband. He's a good father. That guy's going to be happier and is happier than I will ever be in my life. Yep. And that's the thing that no one ever wants to look at.
Because he's fulfilled and he's passionate about his purpose. And that right there is success. So it doesn't matter what his W-2 says, right? It doesn't matter what his pay stub shows. Because you had $1 million check that you deposited and you were depressed as fuck. This guy makes freaking $800 a week if he's lucky, and is more successful than you because he is more fulfilled, because he is happier, because he is making a huge impact on the world. That's incredible, man. So what I got from that is I need to learn right here, right now, that because I'm doing the same thing. It's like, once my house was paid off, then I'd be happier. Once I get my dream car, once I have my Tesla, then I'll be happy. Once I have X amount of Bitcoin, then I'll be happy. It's like, and then you get the story, right? It's like I got all those things, and then I'm like, all right, what's next? Like, once I travel the world, like, then I'll be happy. No. I need to change all of that mental attention, all of that free will consciousness, and I need to gear it more towards my purpose of what I want to do on this earth while I'm here. So that I'm gonna and I'm gonna double down on the healthy eating. I do eat extremely healthy. I fast every single day, but I'm gonna double down on all those things, and the money will follow, right? And if money isn't even the end result, who gives a fuck?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, money's important. Anybody that tells you money can't make you happy or money doesn't buy you happiness is full of shit. They never had any money. Money most definitely can buy you happiness. I use it every day to buy me happiness. And I can tell you when I was a counselor working for $12 an hour at a rehab in Malibu, uh, I wasn't that happy. I had crushing debt as a cloud hanging over me. My credit was fucked, and I was pretty miserable. And all of a sudden, a couple years later, I'm making about 75 grand, 85 grand a year. I was 10 times happier because all of a sudden I could travel where I wanted to travel. If I wanted to, I could fly first class, which now I always do. But back then, I had never flown first class. I could go to a restaurant, I could look at a menu, and I didn't have to look at the prices, and I didn't have
Don't even look at the prices.
yeah, I didn't have to look at the chicken dish or order the salad because I couldn't afford the steak or whatever. So money, and I don't mean to contradict myself, even though I kind of am, but I'm just telling your listeners the truth. Money can and will buy you happiness to a certain extent. But once you've reached Maslow's hierarchy, once you have a roof over your head,
Yep.
you can order what you want at a restaurant, you can fly first class if you want to. Once you get to that level, and in Florida, New York, LA, that takes about 300 grand a year. In the Midwest, it takes about 75 to 100 grand a year. But once you're making that much, and depending on where you live, the price is going to adjust, right? If you live in San Francisco, you probably have to make 500 grand a year to have Maslow's hierarchies met, to have all of your little, pretentious things and needs and wants, and to be able to go to Buck Mason or James Purse and buy a $200 sweatshirt. That level is around 100 grand a year in the Midwest, 75 to 100, and about 300 to 500 on the East Coast and the West Coast. Once you reach that level, you can't get any happier from money. You can get happier from going to a church or a temple or a mosque, joining a group in your community that gives back, creating philanthropic endeavors, donating, tithing. Tithing is a big thing. Giving 10% of your money, even if you're working a minimum wage job. If you give 10% of your money, I don't know how, I don't know why, I don't even want to fucking think about it, but somehow it comes back to you tenfold. It's one of the hardest things for me to understand or swallow, because when I was broke and my sponsor said, you got to put money in the basket. This was at a 12-step meeting. And I'm like, well, I don't have any fucking money. He's like, what are you talking about? I gave you $100 earlier when you washed my car. I'm like, well, yeah, that's got to last me a week until I can, find somebody else so I can detail their car. He goes, so put money in the basket. Because in 12-step programs, you're supposed to put a buck in the basket. Or not supposed to, but it's encouraged that you throw a buck in the basket.
Of course.
So I pull out my money, I throw a buck in, and he looks at me, he goes, no. He goes, $1's for everybody else. You got to throw in $2. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? He goes, you got to put in $2. I go, oh yeah, says you. You drive a fucking Porsche. I don't have a car. And he goes, right. But you need to show God that that's how much faith you have, that you're going to put in twice as much as anybody else.
Dude, this
And
is
son of a bitch, I did it. I threw in the $2, and eventually I threw in $5. And every now and then, I'd throw in a 10 or a 20. Here's the fucking challenge. Could I throw in a 10 or a 20 without anybody looking or noticing?
Oh,
Because
wow.
I want people to see.
Yep.
I want people to see. So it's a weird thing. It's like money is a weird thing. I'm not going to lie to people and say it can't buy you happiness. It absolutely can. But after a certain amount, it doesn't get you any more happiness. And after a certain amount, once you get to a lot of money, you actually start to take away from your happiness and your joy. And this is a conversation I've been having lately, and it talks about what you had asked me earlier. I got 11 locations, I think soon to be 13 locations. We finally got the company to where it's not losing money, and I think it's actually going to make money this year, or at least break even. and I have a modest salary, and my house is paid off, like you said. And the smartest thing for me to do right now would be to just stop growing the company so it starts turning a profit. Stop taking the profits and growing it, but just stop growing, right? That's the smartest thing that I could do for me. Just turn my phone off, have a voicemail that says, if you need to get a hold of me, email me, get off social media, so-called social media, and go fucking take a walk and live my life and hang out with my girl and play with my cats and, take my millions of American Express points and go travel on my own without the famous friends and without their private jets. Because as cool as that looks on social media, those trips can be pretty uncomfortable. When you're the only dude in the room that's not famous, or you're the only dude in the room that's not, worth 10 million or 20 million or a billion or whatever, it can be pretty weird. And you got to eat when those people want to eat, and you got to go where those people want to go. Right. So the smartest thing for me to do right now would be to stop growing my company and just fucking chill and enjoy my life. I just turned 51. I feel like I look a lot younger than that. I feel a lot younger than that. But at the end of the day, a lot of 51-year-old dudes drop dead, or maybe 5 years from now, or maybe it's 20 years from now, maybe it's 50 years from now. I have no fucking idea. Smartest thing for me to do would be to stop growing the company, right? On a personal pleasure level. But the smartest thing for me to do for my employees to continue to get raises and promotions, and for my investors to continue to earn more and more money on their initial investment and ultimately be able to cash out. The smartest and the hardest thing for me to do would be to continue to grow this brand. And the smartest thing for me to do for people out there that don't have access to Sun Life Organics is to continue to open more and more stores. So people everywhere at a certain point, not everywhere, not, in ghettos and not in third world countries, but in prominent cities, in affluent areas, in middle class to upper middle class, because Sun Life Organics is definitely not for everybody. It's not, it's expensive. Mm-hmm. It's really expensive, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. But the smartest thing for me to be able to do for people so they can feel that same surge of energy like I felt when I was newly sober and I started putting those superfoods into my body, the smartest thing I can do for those people is continue to open more stores. It's not going to be fucking easy. It's going to be challenging. And I'm exhausted right now, bro. I am exhausted. But I got people working for me, been with me for almost 7 years now, some of them. And they're great fucking people. And I just got to the point where last year I got a couple of them company cars. And that was one of the proudest days of my life. And I got to give them big bonuses because we finally got that fucking PPP money and I was able to pay off our crushing debt that almost destroyed the business. Right. So, I could be selfish and I could stop growing and I could kick back and I could just, turn on my dumb phone and turn off my smartphone and just chill and only give that dumb phone number out to a few close friends. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this so-called smartphone on. I'm going to stay on social media to continue expanding my own personal brand with my books and stuff like that. And I'm going to grow Sun Life Organics into a juggernaut of a company where there's 100 of them across the country and a bunch of them across the world. And I'm going to continue to inspire people that are struggling with addiction to go, wow, man, he's right. If a fucking dummy like him late in life can turn his life around, get clean and sober, and become a multimillionaire and have an amazing fucking life, if he can do that, then I can do that. Anybody can do that.
Yep. It's inspiring, man. I want to congratulate you on all your success and, your continuous drive and ambition. And it's honestly incredible, dude.
Thank you, brother. I hope when we open South Beach, you're going to come for the
I'll be there. I'll be there opening day. 1,000%. You can guarantee it.
I'll send you a car or whatever. I'll get you. You
there. You don't have to do that. I will be there 100%. I promise.
Amazing.
I promise. Well, Khalil, man, this was an incredible conversation. Super grateful that you took the time out of your busy schedule to hop on the podcast today. This was actually one of the longest podcasts I've ever done because we were just having such a great conversation. To all the people that are listening out there, go ahead and follow Khalil on Instagram at Khalil Rafati. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay. It's spelled KHALILRAFATI Go follow Sun Life Organics and Malibu Beach Yoga. Go ahead and get his book, Remembering to Live, and I Forgot to Die. I just bought I Forgot to Die on Amazon while we were on the phone because I was just so excited to hear your story. So that will be here on April 6th, which is Tuesday. Can't wait to read it. But Khalil, I just want to say thank you so much, man. This was really great.
Zach, I'm so fired up. Your voice is infectious. Your voice literally makes me want to go fucking run like a marathon right now. Like, I don't know what it is about you, but you got something going on, and it is palpable. There is something about your voice, and I cannot fucking wait to see you and meet you and get a hug from you, and hopefully some of that energy is going to transfer into me because I got a long road ahead of me, brother.
100%. We're just growing together, man, and leaving a powerful legacy.
Thank you. I love it.
Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, Zach. Thank you.